I'm delighted to be on Rams TV. I mean, thanks for having me. I think this is my first time on Rams TV. Uh, we started that strategic plan back in, I guess, 2015, right after I got here. We were just closing out a strategic plan. That plan had really yielded a number of dividends. We really got a lot of movement from that. We changed the trajectory of this institution into a more positive direction. The academic metrics were great. So when I got here, they were closing out that strategic plan. So we got together to talk about, where do we go from here? What's the next step for Winston-Salem State University? So the new strategic plan, we spent about 10 months. We engaged the entire university community. It really was almost kind of a cast of thousands of people coming together thinking about what kind of institution do we want to become and start preparing our institutions for the future. We put together about 32 committees and composed of about 6 to 10 people on each committee. So we had about 300 people involved in this, ranging from students, alumni, faculty, staff, people from the community, boards of trustees. We're all involved in this process, thinking about the next step for Winston-Salem State University. We landed on the whole notion of really preparing students for 2020 and 2030 and for the future, and what kind of skills would they need in order to be successful in an ever-changing, fast-paced, dynamic world. What do folks need today to be competitive in that world and to go into that world and make a difference? Well, everybody that I talk to, and everybody when I talk to business leaders, when I talk to political leaders, when we looked at the literature, when we looked at the demographic shifts that were happening in the world, when we looked at the economic shifts and climate, we landed on a place that we need to prepare students for a world that's fast-paced and ever-changing, that you can't really say, what the next workforce is going to look like. Whatever that workforce is going to look like, we're going to design it. And as I talked to the incoming freshmen, the new almost 950 freshmen and their parents, I talked about when they graduate, almost 60% of the goods and services that they will purchase have not even been invented yet. So how do you prepare a workforce students for that? Essential skills. And so as we think about the kind of university we want to be, not only do you have to have a strategic plan, but you got to have messaging around that. You got to have branding around that. And we want to be an institution that's alive and vibrant and forward-thinking. And so in the messaging, you have to make sure that you do that. So the branding came about, or the logo, or the refresh of the logo came about because we needed it to reflect the university, past, present, and future. How do we tie that all together? Brands change, every generation. So when you get a new strategic plan, that's the perfect time to begin thinking about what it will look like. So that is why. And someone said, well, why do you do a brand refresh? And that's why you do a brand refresh. I think that the idea is that is what you do. It's not a whole new brand. It is what we call a brand refresh, to bring it in lockstep with 2016 into the future. We've not had a significant change in the brand in over a decade. And then we only tweaked it a little bit just in terms of the fonts and things of that nature. But how is it that you message your university in such a way that everybody immediately recognizes who you are and what you're about? And so it should be in the logo. It should be in the statement. So our logo simply says Winston-Salem State University. But here, and I had two things that I talked with everyone about as we refreshed the logo. One, it had to be consistent with the history and tradition of this institution. That had to be a part of it. And the second thing is, how do we take that and refresh that for the future of this institution? So for me, it was tying the entire 124-year experience together. So how do you do that? So we started thinking about what were some of the the symbols or the icons that people could relate to. You have to think about this institution is really unique in a number of ways, and that over 63% of our alums have graduated since 2000. That means that we're a relatively young institution. We got an institution of millennials, and what do they want? And they want change. They want excitement. They want something that reflects that energy that they bring. So it was an opportunity to begin to do that. So you search and you say, what are those icons? We presented a number of icons in terms of the rollout. We looked at the statue of our founder. We looked at the clock tower. These are things certainly that most of our alums can relate to because they know that. But folks prior to 2000, they can't relate to the clock tower. They can't relate to the statue because the statue of our founder was in 2005, and the clock tower, the statue of our founder was actually after that. I think the clock tower came first, and then the statue of our founder came in about 2006 or so. So these are recent icons, but the arches are something that's been a part of this university for a very long time. 1936. So just about everyone remembers the arches, and that reflects this university. So we got the historical legacy and context with the arches. You got a university that says that we're forward thinking, that we're on the move. So we refreshed we refreshed the design of Winston-Salem State University to reflect that freshness. Then we also have the skyline of the city of Winston-Salem that say that we are also part of this city, and we are an integral part of this city. So you can actually see the skyline through there. And if you look very carefully, there are a lot of little nuances in the logo as well. The clock tower is actually there. So we have the clock tower there with the skyline of the city around. We think in terms of the work that we've done, in terms of refreshing the logo, I'm excited about it, and I hope that other folks will, if they're not already excited about it, will grow to be excited about it. There was some work that had been done about 2012, and people started thinking about, how we were going to refresh things and how we were going to be different. And for whatever reason, I'm not so sure, they didn't kind of follow through for that. So we had some data that had been collected back from 2012. We used that data, and then we put together a number of focus groups. We had student focus groups, we had alumni focus groups. We did a focus group with our boards, trustees, foundation board. So we have members look at a variety of different icons and possibilities, and it really went through a number of iterations. And I'll tell you, initially, as I was going through, my first attraction was one of the first renditions that I saw was with the clock tower. And I immediately said, oh, that's it, the clock tower. So that's what I really liked at the beginning. But then as we began to have focus groups and ask folks about the clock tower, but then we got a large percentage of folks who say, well, I don't know about the clock tower. The clock tower wasn't there when I was there. And the folks in the 90s and 80s and the 70s couldn't relate to the clock tower. But certainly people after that could relate to that. And so the arches then made more sense in terms of connecting the past, the present, and the future. Yeah, I don't have the answer to that. I think there's some expense associated with that. But one of the amazing things about this brand refresh is that we were able to do it with just minimal cost. I think just the whole, thinking about it and the sketches involved and putting all that together, I think it was less than $5,000. And we think that we got a great product for that. Because if you look around the country and you look at institutions who are going through this process, very few go through this process without really getting into six figures, a six-figure cost. And the fact that we were able to do this at such a reduced rate is really amazing. Well, I think that in terms of the logo refresh, that's a recent kind of phenomenon in terms of probably 2015. What they started in 2012 was just trying to kind of rethink the direction of the university, who we are, so they begin to ask questions. What kind of institution are we, and what kind of institution do we want to become? So at that time, it was about discovering the voices of folks, the students and the faculty, alumni about the institution. So they were collecting data along those lines. That's the data that we began to use in terms of the brand refresh. But the refresh happened simply because of one, the new strategic plan, the new vision for the institution. That's what brought about the brand refresh. Yes, we want to take a look at that. And not because that we're dissatisfied with the brand, but not because of anything other than let's take a look at the brand and let's see if, in fact, it needs to be updated to reflect the overall vision of the university. Only because, when we did it before, if you look at the design of the Ram, it's actually very similar to the Dodge Ram. I don't know if you've noticed that. And I think even when we went to that Ram, it's my understanding there was some discussion around to make sure that it wasn't identical or it didn't reflect the Dodge Ram, but it was a little different. As we think about the kind of institution we are, we simply ask the question, does the mascot, does the Ram reflect the vision that we have about the university? Does it reflect the refresh logo? Does it reflect the fact that we want to be a forward-thinking university? So it is an opportunity for us to take a look at that. We will be doing that over the course of the year, getting feedback from students, once again, from alumni, of course, to work along those lines. Yeah, I never kind of go into these things in terms of whether I like them or dislike them. I'm not necessarily just trying to change for the sake of changing. Just asking the question, does it reflect the direction that the institution is going, or the kind of great institution that we want to become? I just asked a question about that. At the end, we may land on the Ram. I don't know, but the idea is, if you look at logos, for example, at other institutions, for example, take all the mascots in the CIAA, which is the conference that we belong, and you look at how they're portrayed. You look at the bear, for example, the Shaw bear. It looks like a bear. It's ferocious. I don't know. And so, and if you look at our Ram, you say, well, what does the Ram say about who we are as an institution? That's all I'm asking, and that's what we'll be doing over the next year to kind of figure all that out. I would love for that to happen. I thought about, this is something, whether you wanted to turn it into a contest, I don't know. Maybe you guys can help me out with that and thinking about the direction that we might want to go. But we certainly want student involvement. I haven't talked to any of the students outside of the focus group, but I do get feedback from students about the new logo. I would say overwhelmingly it's been positive. That people really like the new change, the new design, the refreshed logo. I could tell you in the community of Winston-Salem, the business community, the educational community, everywhere I go, I get positive feedback about the brand refresh, that they really like that. So I would say overwhelmingly has been positive. and that's good. I mean, anytime you do change, you can expect some resistance from that. But that's the nature of change itself. And I don't necessarily think that people say, I don't like the new logo. Oftentimes what I get is, why are you changing the logo? As if there's some ulterior motive, behind changing the logo. That's what I get more so than I don't like it. I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. Um, that's a very good question. And that's a conversation that we ought to have with kind of the student leaders, the student body, and decide if that's something that's necessary, something that we want to do. It'd be nice to do something around homecoming, for example, around that. That's a great idea. I like for them to receive the message that this is an indication of the work that has transpired at this institution over the past 124 years, that it speaks to that rich and deep history, and it speaks to a future of the kind of institution that we want to be, and that is to be forward thinking, to be innovative, to be creative, and to prepare folks for a future that doesn't even exist. That's what this logo is all about. And I think over time, people will begin to respect that and understand that. And I'd like for folks to really take a look at the logo, because there are a lot of little nuances in it. And it's like a painting. So spend some time, take a look at it, because there's a lot of stuff and there's a lot of messaging in that. I am honored to be on RAM TV.